The Arizona sun burned hot in the summer of 1887. Dust covered everything, from the dried-up creek beds to the few scattered ranches trying to survive in this hard land. Sam Redding wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at his worn-out boots. There were holes in them now, and he'd stuffed newspaper inside to cover the gaps. He was 23 years old and felt twice that age. Sam wasn't tall. He stood at 5'6", which made him the shortest man on the ranch. The other cowboys liked to joke about it, but Sam had learned to laugh along. What else could he do? He needed this job even though it barely paid enough to keep him fed. The ranch was failing anyway. Everyone knew it. The cattle were sick, the land was too dry, and the owner spent more time drinking than working. He'd come from Boston 3 years ago with big dreams. His parents died when he was young, and he'd grown up poor in the Irish neighborhoods where everyone struggled. Out west, people said, a man could make something of himself. He could own land, build a life, be somebody. But so far all Sam owned were those broken boots, 2 shirts, 1 pair of pants, and a hat with a hole in it. Still, he kept hoping. Every morning he woke up hoping. Maybe today would be different. Maybe today something would change. It was a Tuesday when his boss sent him to the trading post. They needed supplies, flour and coffee and rope. The trading post was 20 miles away, a long ride on a tired horse. Sam didn't mind. It got him away from the ranch for a day, away from the jokes and the dying cattle and the feeling that he was wasting his life. The trading post sat at a crossroads where Apache land met settler territory. It was neutral ground, or as neutral as anything could be in those days. The government had pushed the Apache people around for years, breaking promises and starting fights. There was anger on both sides, fear too. Most cowboys avoided Apache folks when they could. Most Apache people felt the same way about cowboys. Sam tied his horse outside and walked into the trading post. It was cooler inside, dark after the bright sun. He stood there blinking, letting his eyes adjust. That's when he saw her. She was standing near the counter talking to the post owner in English, then switching to Apache to speak with an older woman beside her. Sam had never seen anyone like her. She was tall, really tall, at least 6'2". She had strong shoulders and moved with the kind of confidence that comes from never doubting yourself. Her long black hair was tied back and she wore a mix of traditional Apache clothing and practical settler pants. Sam forgot to breathe for a moment. Then he remembered himself and looked away quickly, embarrassed. He walked to the counter, trying not to stare. The post owner, old Henry, nodded at him. "Sam, what do you need today?" Sam pulled out his list, but he could barely focus on it. The tall woman was still there, just a few feet away. She was translating something about a trade agreement, her voice calm and steady. She spoke both languages perfectly, switching between them like it was the easiest thing in the world. "That's Nolan," Henry said quietly, noticing where Sam's attention had gone. "She works as a translator, keeps the peace between folks. Smart as a whip, that one. And before you get any ideas, cowboy, she's way out of your league." Sam felt his face turn red. I didn't," Henry laughed. "Sure you weren't. Now you want this flour or not?" Sam tried to focus on his supplies, but his eyes kept drifting back to her. Nayland. The name fit her somehow, strong and different. She finished her conversation and walked past him toward the door. For just a second her eyes met his. She looked at him the way you might look at a curious child, amused and a little puzzled. Then she was gone. Sam loaded his supplies onto his horse in a daze. His hands moved automatically, tying the bags, checking the ropes. But his mind was somewhere else entirely. He'd seen pretty girls before, sure, but this was different. It wasn't just about how she looked. It was the way she carried herself, the way people listened when she spoke, the way she seemed comfortable in her own skin. On the long ride back to the ranch, Sam couldn't stop thinking about her. He knew it was stupid. Henry was right. She was completely out of his league. He was a broke cowboy with holes in his boots. She was important, educated, respected. Plus there was the bigger problem. The world they lived in didn't allow for certain things. A poor Irish cowboy and an Apache woman. People would lose their minds, but still, he thought about her smile. Had she smiled? He tried to remember, maybe just a little, at the corner of her mouth. When he got back to the ranch, the other cowboys were sitting around outside, avoiding work as usual. "Took you long enough?" one of them called out. "Did you get lost?" "Roads were rough," Sam said, climbing down from his horse. He unloaded the supplies and went about his evening chores. He fed the horses, checked the fences, helped cook dinner over the fire. Everything was normal. Everything was the same as it had been that morning, but something had shifted inside him. For the first time in months, maybe years, Sam felt something beyond just tired hope. He felt curious. He felt awake. That night, lying on his bedroll under the stars, Sam made a decision. He'd find a reason to go back to that trading post. Not right away, that would be too obvious. But soon, maybe next week, maybe he'd think of something they needed. He fell asleep thinking about a woman who was half a foot taller than him, who spoke 2 languages, who lived in a completely different world. He fell asleep thinking about how her eyes had looked when they met his, just for that one brief second. He fell asleep thinking that maybe, just maybe, something in his life was about to change after all. The stars burned bright overhead, and somewhere in the distance a coyote called out to the night. Sam's last thought before sleep took him was simple. He wanted to hear her voice again. He wanted to know what she thought about things. He wanted to understand what it felt like to be that sure of yourself. It seemed impossible. It probably was impossible, but Sam had crossed an ocean and half a continent, chasing impossible dreams. What was one more? Sam found his excuse 2 weeks later. The ranch needed more rope, he told his boss. Better nails, too. The old man just waved him away, not really caring. So Sam rode back to the trading post, his heart beating faster with every mile. She was there again. Nolan stood outside this time, talking with a group of Apache traders. Sam felt nervous just looking at her. What was he supposed to do? Walk up and say hello? She probably didn't even remember him. He went inside and took his time looking at rope, real slow. He examined every coil like he was buying something precious. Henry watched him with a knowing smirk. That rope ain't gonna get more interesting the longer you stare at it, Henry said. Sam bought what he needed and stepped outside. Nolan was alone now, the traders had left. She was checking a list, writing something down. Before he could talk himself out of it, Sam walked over. "Excuse me," he said. His voice came out weird, too high. She looked up. Those dark eyes studied him for a moment. "Yes, I wanted to." Sam's mind went completely blank. What did he want? "I'm Sam, I was here a couple weeks back." "I remember," she said. Her expression didn't give anything away. "You were buying flour. You remember that?" Sam was surprised. "I remember most things." She tilted her head slightly. "Did you need something?" "No, yes. Sam took a breath. "I just wanted to say it's impressive. How you speak both languages so well." Nolan's expression softened just a tiny bit. "Thank you. It's necessary work. Could you teach me some words?" In Apache. The question tumbled out before Sam could stop it. She looked at him for a long moment. Sam couldn't tell what she was thinking. Then to his surprise, she smiled. It was small, but it was real. "Why would a cowboy want to learn Apache?" "Because I live here," Sam said honestly. "And I don't understand half the people around me." "Seems stupid, doesn't it?" Something in her eyes changed. Interest, maybe. Most settlers don't think that way. "Yeah, well, I'm not most settlers." Nolan closed her notebook. "What do you want to know?" That's how it started. Standing outside a dusty trading post, Nolan taught Sam his first Apache words. "Hello, thank you, water, horse." She corrected his pronunciation patiently when he got it wrong, which was often. "Your tongue doesn't know where to go," she said, not unkindly. "Try again," Sam tried. He sounded ridiculous, he knew it. But Nolan didn't laugh at him. She just kept teaching. After that, Sam found reasons to visit the trading post every week, sometimes twice a week. The other ranch hands started noticing. "You sweet on that Apache girl?" one of them asked, grinning. "I'm learning the language," Sam said defensively. "Being neighborly. Sure you are. And I'm the King of England." Sam ignored them. Let them think what they wanted. The truth was more complicated anyway. Yes, he was drawn to Nolan, how could he not be? But it was more than that. Talking with her was like opening a door to a world he'd never seen. She told him about Apache ways of thinking, about how her people viewed the land and community. She explained things he'd never understood. In return, Sam told her about growing up poor in Boston, about watching ships come into harbor and dreaming of places he'd never go, about his parents who'd died of fever when he was 12, about coming west with nothing but hope in his pocket. "You're a long way from home," Nolan observed one afternoon. "I don't think I ever had a home." Sam admitted. Not really. Just places I stayed for a while. That's sad. Maybe. But it made it easier to leave. Nolan nodded slowly. My people understand that. We've been forced to leave many times. There was weight in those words, pain that Sam couldn't fully understand but could feel. He wanted to say something comforting but didn't know what would be right. I'm sorry, he finally said. Sorry doesn't change anything, Nolan replied, but her voice wasn't harsh. Just tired. The weeks passed. Sam got better at Apache words, though he still sounded like a child stumbling through them. Nolan started asking him questions too, about cowboy life, about what he wanted for his future, about why he worked so hard for so little pay. Because I don't have a choice, Sam said. No education, no money, no family. Cowboy's work is what I can do. You're smart enough to learn a new language in weeks, Nolan pointed out. You could do other things, like what? I don't know. But something better than dying cattle and cruel bosses. Sam laughed. You don't think much of my career choice? I think you're wasting yourself. Nobody had ever said anything like that to him before. The idea that he was worth something more, that he was wasting potential, it hit Sam harder than he expected. He thought about it for days afterward, but their friendship wasn't easy. People talked. Sam heard whispers at the ranch. Nolan told him she heard concerns from her community too. They think I'm being foolish, she said one day, spending time with a white cowboy when white soldiers and settlers have caused so much harm to our people. Are they right? Sam asked quietly. Am I just another settler to you? Nolan considered this carefully. She always thought before she spoke. At first, yes. I thought you were curious like a child who sees something new. But you listen when I talk. You ask real questions. You try to understand instead of judge. That's different. Different good or different strange? Both, probably. She smiled then, that small smile that made Sam's chest feel tight. The problem was that different wasn't enough for the world around them. Sam knew it. Nolan knew it too. There were rules, written and unwritten, about how people from different worlds should interact. Friendly was okay maybe, but anything more? That was dangerous. Still, Sam kept coming back to the trading post, and Nolan kept meeting him there, kept teaching him words, kept sharing stories. They were building something, though neither of them wanted to name what it was. One afternoon, Sam brought her something. Just a small thing, a piece of blue cloth he'd bought from a traveling merchant. It cost him nearly a week's wages. For you, he said, awkward and nervous. I thought, the color reminded me of, I don't know. It's stupid. Nolan took the cloth and ran it through her fingers. Why would you spend money on this? You barely have enough for yourself. I wanted to, Sam said simply. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she folded the cloth carefully and put it away. Thank you, Sam. It was the first time she'd said his name like that. Like it mattered. Like he mattered. Sam rode back to the ranch that day feeling like he was floating. He knew he was in trouble. He knew this couldn't go anywhere good. But for the first time in his life, he didn't care about being practical or smart or careful. He cared about the way Nolan said his name. He cared about her small smiles and her patient teaching and the way she made him want to be better than he was. The other cowboys noticed the change in him. You've got it bad, one of them said, shaking his head. This ain't gonna end well, Sam. Sam knew he was probably right. But he kept going back anyway, because some things he was learning were worth the risk. 2 months had passed since that first day at the trading post. Sam's Apache was getting better, though he still sounded rough. But something else was happening too. Something that kept him awake at night. He was falling for Nolan hard. It was a hopeless kind of feeling. Every time he saw her, his heart did this stupid jump in his chest. Every time she smiled at something he said, he felt 10 feet tall. And then reality would crash back in, reminding him of all the reasons this could never work. The biggest reason was standing right in front of him every time they talked. Nolan was tall, powerful, confident. She commanded respect wherever she went. People listened when she spoke, both Apache and settlers. She was important, and Sam? He was nobody. A short cowboy with holes in his boots who could barely afford to eat. What could he possibly offer someone like her? Then there was everything else. The hatred between settlers and Apache people had left deep scars. Wars had been fought. Families had been destroyed. Treaties had been broken. The government kept pushing Apache communities around, taking their land, making promises they never kept. And Nalen's people had fought back, defended themselves, lost so much. How could Sam, a white settler, even think about being with her? Wouldn't that be disrespectful to everything her people had suffered? Wouldn't it look like he was just another white man taking something that wasn't his? These thoughts ate at Sam constantly, but they didn't stop his feelings. If anything, they made them worse. He found himself thinking about her all the time. When he was riding fence lines, when he was feeding horses, when he was lying under the stars at night. He imagined what it would be like to hold her hand, to tell her how he felt, to build some kind of life together. Impossible as that seemed. Sometimes the wanting was so strong it hurt. The other cowboys had stopped joking and started getting mean about it. "You're embarrassing yourself," one of them said. "Chasing after a woman who's way too good for you. An Apache woman too. Have you lost your mind?" "Leave it alone," Sam said quietly. "I'm serious. You think her people want her with a broke white cowboy? You think anyone's going to accept that? You're going to get yourself killed, or worse, you're going to get her hurt." Those words haunted Sam because they were true. This wasn't just about him. If people got angry enough, Nalen could be in danger too. The thought of bringing harm to her made Sam feel sick. Maybe he should stop going to the trading post. Maybe he should let this stupid dream die before it caused real problems. But then he'd see her again and all his resolve would crumble. Like the Tuesday afternoon when she was teaching him about Apache views on nature. Her face lit up when she talked about the connection between land and people, about how everything was related. Sam found himself staring at her like a fool, barely hearing the words, just watching the way her hands moved when she explained things. "You're not listening," she said suddenly. "I am," Sam protested. "Then what did I just say?" He had no idea. Nalen shook her head, but she was smiling. "What am I going to do with you?" "I don't know," Sam said honestly. "I don't know what I'm doing here, Nalen. I just know I can't stay away." Something shifted in her expression. The smile faded. She looked at him carefully, like she was trying to read something written on his face. "Sam," she said slowly, "what are we doing?" "I don't know," he said again. His heart was pounding. "What do you want to be doing?" Before she could answer, voices interrupted them. A group of traders arrived, needing Nalen's help with a dispute. The moment broke. Sam watched her go, watched her shift into her professional role, and felt the distance between them like a physical thing. The next week brought trouble. A fight broke out at the trading post between a drunk settler and a young Apache man. It got ugly fast. Sam was there, watching it escalate, seeing how anger fed anger until everyone was shouting. Nalen stepped into the middle of it, just walked right in, fearless. She put herself between the two men, her voice cutting through the noise. "Enough," she said in English. Then in Apache, "This stops now." Most people backed off, respect for Nalen overriding their anger. But the drunk settler wasn't done. He shoved forward, his fist coming up. Sam didn't think. He just moved, putting himself between the settler and Nalen. The punch caught Sam in the shoulder, spinning him around. It hurt, but he stayed on his feet. Other people rushed in then, pulling the drunk man away, ending the fight before it got worse. Sam stood there, breathing hard, his shoulder throbbing. Nalen grabbed his arm. "Are you hurt?" Her voice was sharp with concern. "I'm fine. Just bruised." "You're bleeding." She pointed to a cut on his forehead he hadn't noticed. She pulled him around to the side of the trading post, away from the crowd. Her hands were gentle as she examined the cut, but her face was angry. "That was stupid," she said. "He could have really hurt you. He was going to hurt you. I can handle myself, Sam. I've been doing it for years." "I know. Sam looked at her, really looked at her. She was close now, closer than she'd ever been. He could see the worry in her eyes, the frustration, and something else. Something that made his breath catch. He wanted to touch her, wanted to reach up and brush her hair back, wanted to take her hand, wanted to pull her close. The desire was overwhelming. But he was frozen, trapped by all his fears and doubts. What if she didn't want him to touch her? What if it crossed a line? What if he ruined everything? His hand lifted slightly, almost on its own, then stopped. Hovered there in the space between them, shaking just a little. Nalen saw it. She went very still, watching him. "Sam," she said softly. "What is it?" He couldn't speak. All the words he'd been carrying around for weeks piled up in his throat, choking him. He wanted to tell her he thought about her constantly, that she'd changed everything for him, that he knew he had no right. but he couldn't help how he felt. Instead, his hand just hung there in the air, reaching and not reaching. The moment stretched out, painful and electric. People were moving around nearby, cleaning up from the fight, but Sam and Nolan might as well have been alone in the world. Finally, Sam lowered his hand. The disappointment that crossed Nolan's face was there and gone so fast he almost missed it. But he saw it, and it changed something in him. She wanted him to touch her. Maybe. Possibly. Or had he imagined that look? "I should go," Sam said, his voice rough. "My boss will wonder where I am." Nolan nodded slowly. She stepped back, putting distance between them again. "Be careful riding back. You might have a concussion." "I'm okay." Really, he wasn't okay. He was a mess. But he rode back to the ranch anyway, his mind spinning. That night, lying on his bedroll, Sam replayed the moment over and over. Her closeness. Her concern. The way she'd looked at his raised hand. The possibility he'd seen in her eyes. He'd been so scared. Scared of rejection. Scared of making her uncomfortable. Scared of all the terrible things that could happen if he crossed that line. But what if being scared meant missing the only chance he'd ever have at something real? Sam made a decision then, staring up at the stars. Next time he saw her, if there was another moment like that, he wouldn't freeze. He wouldn't let fear win. He'd ask. Somehow he'd find the courage to ask. The question formed in his mind, simple and terrifying. What if I touch you? Would she say yes? Would she smile? Or would she step away? End whatever this fragile thing between them was. Sam didn't know. But he was going to find out. Because living with the question was becoming harder than facing any answer could be. Sam didn't have to wait long for another chance. 3 days later, he rode to the trading post with his heart in his throat. He'd practiced what he wanted to say 100 times, but every version sounded wrong in his head. Nolan was there, organizing supplies. She looked up when he arrived, and something in her expression told him she'd been expecting him. "Your head healed?" she asked, gesturing to where the cut had been. "Yeah, barely a mark now." Sam tied his horse and walked over. His hands were sweating. "Can we talk? Somewhere private?" Nolan's eyes searched his face. Then she nodded. "Follow me." She led him behind the trading post to a spot where some old cottonwood trees provided shade. It was quiet there, away from the main road. Sam's pulse was racing so fast he could hear it in his ears. They stood facing each other. Nolan waited, patient as always. Sam opened his mouth, but the practiced words vanished. Instead, something more honest came out. "I can't stop thinking about you," he said. "I know I shouldn't. I know there's a million reasons why this is wrong. But I can't help it, Nolan. You're all I think about." She didn't look surprised. "Just sad, maybe." "Sam, wait, please, let me finish." He took a breath. "I'm nobody." "I know that." "I'm broke, I'm short, I'm not educated. You could have anyone. But when I'm with you, I feel like maybe I could be somebody. Like maybe I matter." "You do matter," Nolan said quietly. "Not like you do. You're important. People respect you, and me? I'm just some cowboy who can barely keep his boots from falling apart." Sam laughed bitterly. "I don't even know why you talk to me." "Because you see me," Nolan said. Her voice was steady, but there was emotion underneath. Most settlers see an Apache woman, and that's all. Or they see a translator they can use. Or they see someone to be afraid of. "You see me, the person." Sam's throat tightened. "Of course I do." "That's not as common as you think." They stood there in the shade, the afternoon heat pressing down around them. Sam knew this was the moment. Now or never. All the fear, all the doubt, it didn't matter anymore. He had to know. "The other day," he said slowly, "when you were helping with my cut, I wanted to touch you, to reach for you, but I couldn't, I was too scared." Nolan's expression softened. "I know, I saw. Would you have—" Sam couldn't finish the question. His courage was failing. "Would I have what, Sam?" He forced himself to meet her eyes. "Would you have let me?" The question hung between them. Nolan didn't answer right away. She seemed to be weighing something, measuring possibilities. When she finally spoke, her voice was careful. "My people have been hurt by settlers for years, lied to, cheated, killed. When I spend time with you, some of my community worries. They think I'm betraying our struggles." Being naive, Sam's heart sank. "I understand. I'm not finished." Nolan stepped closer. "But you're not like the soldiers who burned our homes. You're not like the government men who break treaties. You're not like the settlers who see us as less than human. You're just Sam. A man who works hard and means what he says and treats me with respect, Money. That's not enough though, is it? Sam said. Respect isn't enough to overcome everything else. Maybe not. Nalin tilted her head, studying him. But it's a start, and I haven't felt this way about anyone before. So maybe it's enough to try. Sam's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying I think about you too. I'm saying when you almost touched me the other day, I wanted you to. I'm saying this is complicated and probably foolish, but I'm tired of letting fear make all my decisions. They were close now, close enough that Sam had to look up to meet her eyes. His height next to hers should have made him feel small, but it didn't. Not with the way she was looking at him. Nalin, he whispered. What if I touch you? The words came out soft, barely audible, but they carried everything he felt, everything he hoped, everything he was afraid to want. For a moment, nothing happened. The world seemed to pause, waiting. Then Nalin smiled. It started small, just a curve at the corner of her mouth, but it grew, spreading across her face until her eyes lit up with it. It was the most beautiful thing Sam had ever seen. She didn't answer with words. Instead, she reached out and took his hand. Her fingers wrapped around his, warm and strong. Then she guided his hand up, placing it on her shoulder. His palm rested against her, feeling the warmth of her skin through the fabric of her shirt. Then you touch me, she said simply. Her voice was in English, clear and certain. Is that so complicated? Sam's hand trembled slightly against her shoulder. Your people, my people, everyone will what? Nalin's other hand came up, touching his cheek gently. Be angry? Talk, judge. Let them. I'm tired of living for everyone else's approval. You could get hurt because of me, Sam said. The fear in his voice was real. I couldn't stand that. And you could get hurt because of me. Life is full of risks, Sam. We can be afraid of all of them, or we can be brave about the ones that matter. You matter, Sam said. His hand moved from her shoulder to her face, mirroring how she was touching him. You matter so much. Nalin leaned down and Sam stretched up, and somehow they met in the middle. The kiss was gentle at first, testing, asking permission that had already been given. Then it deepened, became more certain. Sam felt like his whole body was on fire. Everything he'd been holding back, all the longing and hope and fear, poured into that moment. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. Nalin rested her forehead against his, and they stood there like that, just being close. This won't be easy, she said after a moment. I know. People will try to stop us. Both our communities, I know. You might lose your job. I might lose respect. We might have to leave this place. I know, Sam said again. Then he pulled back enough to look at her properly. But I'd rather have a hard life with you than an easy one without you. Is that crazy? Nalin laughed, and the sound was like music. Completely crazy. But I feel the same way. They stayed under those cottonwood trees for another hour, talking quietly, holding hands, stealing kisses like teenagers. Everything felt new and fragile and precious. Sam kept thinking he might wake up and find this was all a dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was real. Nalin was real, solid and warm beside him. The way she looked at him was real. The future they were starting to imagine, however difficult it might be, was real. Finally, as the sun started to lower, Nalin said, You should go back before people start looking for you. Sam nodded reluctantly. When can I see you again? Tomorrow? She smiled. I'll be here tomorrow. Tomorrow, Sam agreed. He started to leave, then turned back. Nalin, thank you. For what? For letting me touch you. For not being afraid. For giving us a chance. She squeezed his hand one more time. Thank you for asking. For seeing me. For being brave enough to whisper that question. Sam rode back to the ranch in a daze. The world looked different now. Brighter somehow despite the approaching sunset. He knew hard times were coming. He knew they'd face opposition and anger and maybe even danger. But for the first time in his life, Sam felt like he had something worth fighting for. Not just survival, not just getting by. Something real. Someone real. That night, lying under the stars, Sam touched his lips where Nalin had kissed him. He could still feel her there. Still smell the sage and leather scent of her. Tomorrow seemed impossibly far away. One of the other cowboys noticed his expression. You've got a stupid grin on your face. What happened? Nothing, Sam said. But he couldn't stop smiling. Everything. I don't know. He didn't tell them about Nalin, not yet. This was too new, too precious to share with people who wouldn't understand. But eventually, they'd have to know. Everyone would have to know. Sam wasn't sure how that would go. But lying there under the vast Arizona sky, with the memory of Nalan's smile fresh in his mind, he found he wasn't as scared as he thought he'd be. Some things were worth the risk. Some people were worth any risk, and Nalan, she was worth everything. The next 3 months were the happiest and hardest of Sam's life. Happy because of Nalan, because of stolen moments and secret meetings. Hard because hiding something precious felt like slowly suffocating it. They met whenever they could, always careful, sometimes behind the trading post, sometimes by a creek 2 miles out where nobody went, sometimes just passing each other on the road, exchanging looks that said more than words could. Sam learned quickly that being with Nalan meant entering a different world. She taught him to see things he'd walked past his whole life without noticing, how to read weather in the sky, which plants were useful for medicine, how to move quietly through brush, Apache ways of understanding the land, not as something to own but as something to be part of. Your people see land as property, she explained one afternoon. They were sitting by the creek, hidden by willows, something to buy and sell and fence off. My people see it as relationship. You don't own your mother. You belong to each other. Sam thought about that. I never had much land to own anyway. Maybe that's why it makes sense to me. Or maybe you just listen better than most settlers. Nalan leaned against him. It still amazed Sam how natural that felt, despite their size difference. She could rest her chin on top of his head when they stood, but sitting together like this, they fit perfectly. He told her about his dreams. Small dreams, practical ones. I want land someday. Not much, just enough for a house and maybe some horses, somewhere quiet where people leave you alone. People will never leave us alone, Nalan said quietly. Not if we're together. You know that. Then somewhere far from people. She smiled sadly. Even there, Sam, the world doesn't want what we have. She wasn't wrong. They both knew it. But they kept building anyway, stone by stone, moment by moment, building something fragile against a wind that wanted to blow it down. The secrecy wore on them both. Sam hated lying to the ranch hands, making up stories about where he went. Nalan hated the questions from her uncle, a respected elder who'd noticed her distraction. You're different lately, her uncle had said. Your mind is elsewhere. I'm fine, Nalan insisted. You're a terrible liar. Always have been. Her uncle studied her face. Is it a man? Nalan hesitated, then nodded. Apache. She shook her head. Her uncle's expression darkened. Nalan, think about what you're doing. After everything our people have suffered at the hands of settlers, how can you? He's not them, Nalan said firmly. He's different. They all say that. They're all different until they're not. The conversation haunted her. She told Sam about it later, and he could see the conflict in her eyes, the pull between her heart and her loyalty to her people. Maybe your uncle is right, Sam said, though the words hurt to speak. Maybe I'm being selfish, asking you to risk so much. You're not asking. I'm choosing. Nalan took his hands. But I won't lie, Sam, this is hard. Harder than I thought it would be. We could stop, Sam offered, even though the thought felt like dying, before anyone gets more hurt. Is that what you want? No, God, no. But I want what's best for you. Then stop deciding what's best for me, Nalan said with a flash of her old strength. I'm not helpless. I know the risks. I'm making my own choice. That conversation happened on a Saturday. By Monday, everything got more complicated. Sam's boss found out. One of the ranch hands, jealous or mean-spirited or both, told him about Sam's trips to see that Apache woman. The boss called Sam into his office, such as it was. A dusty room with a desk and one chair. Is it true? The boss demanded. You and some Apache girl? Sam stood straighter. Her name is Nalan, and yes, are you stupid, boy? Do you know what kind of trouble that brings? I'm not asking for trouble. I'm just what? In love? The boss laughed harshly. Love doesn't put food on the table. Love doesn't keep the ranch safe. You bring that woman around here, you bring problems we don't need. I never brought her here, Sam said. This is my business, not the ranch's. Everything you do affects this ranch. What if her people get angry? What if settlers start talking about us harboring Apache sympathizers? Nalan's people respect her. And she's not a sympathizer, she's Apache herself. The boss shook his head. You're done, Sam, pack your things. I want you gone by sundown." Sam felt the bottom drop out of his world. "Sir, please. I need this job. Should have thought of that before. I can't have this kind of disruption. There's other cowboys looking for work anyway." Sam walked out of that office feeling numb. Gone by sundown. No job, no money, nowhere to go. And winter was coming. He told Nalin that evening. She listened, her face growing more troubled with each word. "This is my fault," she said. "I brought this on you." "No," Sam said firmly. "I made my choice. I'd make it again. But now what? Where will you go?" "I don't know. Maybe I can find work at another ranch. Or in town." "Towns are worse," Nalin said. "More people, more judgment." She was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Come with me." "What?" "To my uncle's land. It's on the edge of Apache territory. He has space and we need help sometimes with horses. It's not much, but Nalin, your uncle already thinks I'm bad news. My uncle thinks many things, but he's also practical, and he loves me. If I ask, he'll at least consider it." It was a risk, a huge risk. But Sam was out of options. "Okay," he said, "if you think there's a chance." Meeting Nalin's uncle properly was terrifying. The man was in his 60s, weathered and wise, with eyes that seemed to see straight through Sam. They sat outside his home while Nalin translated, though the uncle understood English fine. He just preferred his own language. "So you're the cowboy," the uncle said, "the one turning my niece's head." "Yes, sir," Sam replied. "And she's turned mine. You know the trouble this causes for her, for our people?" "I do, and I'm sorry for that. But I love her, and I'll work hard, prove myself, do whatever it takes." The uncle studied him for a long time. Finally, he said something in Apache. Nalin translated, "He says you're either very brave or very foolish." "Maybe both," Sam admitted. The uncle almost smiled. Then he spoke again, longer this time. Nalin translated, "He says the world is changing whether we like it or not. He says holding on to old hatred serves no one. He says if you work hard and treat me with respect, you can stay. But he's watching you. Any sign of disrespect, any hint that you're like the settlers who've hurt our people and you're gone." "Understood?" "Understood," Sam said. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." So Sam moved to the edge of Apache territory. He lived in a small shelter near the horse corrals, earned his keep through hard work. It wasn't much, but it was honest. And he was close to Nalin. The work was different from ranch work. Nalin's uncle taught him Apache methods for training horses, gentler than what Sam knew. He learned about respect and patience. He learned that strength wasn't about domination, but about partnership. And slowly, carefully, Sam and Nalin built their relationship in the open. Not hiding anymore, though not flaunting it either. Her community watched him constantly. Some with hostility, some with curiosity, a few with cautious acceptance. Sam proved himself through work and through listening. He learned more Apache words. He participated in community tasks. He showed up and kept showing up day after day, earning trust bit by bit. It wasn't easy. There were still hard looks, harsh words sometimes. There were settlers who heard about the Apache woman and her white cowboy and said ugly things. There were nights when Sam wondered if they were fighting a losing battle. But then he'd see Nalin smile, or feel her hand in his, or wake up knowing she was nearby, and he'd remember why it was worth it. They were building something. Against the wind, against the world, against all the voices saying it couldn't work. They were building it anyway, one day at a time. Winter came hard that year. Snow covered the ground and temperatures dropped so low that water froze in the buckets overnight. Sam had never been so cold in his life, but he kept working. He had to prove himself, had to show Nalin's community that he was worth the trouble he brought. For a while, things seemed to be settling. Some people in the community started nodding to him when they passed. A few even spoke to him directly, testing his Apache, correcting his mistakes with more patience than hostility. It felt like maybe, just maybe, they were winning people over. Then everything fell apart in a single week. It started with news from town. A group of Apache men had been accused of stealing cattle. The accusations were probably false, Nalin said. Cattle went missing all the time for lots of reasons, but it didn't matter. Some settlers wanted someone to blame, and Apache people made easy targets. Tensions rose fast. There was talk of posses, of justice, of teaching lessons, the kind of talk that led to violence. Nalin's community grew protective, defensive. Everyone was on edge, waiting to see what would happen. Into this powder keg walked some men from Sam's old ranch. They showed up at the edge of the community one afternoon looking for him. "We heard you're living with the Apache now," the leader said. His name was Chuck, and he'd never liked Sam much. "Thought maybe you'd want to come back to your own people, especially with all the trouble brewing." "I'm fine where I am," Sam said carefully. "Are you? Because it looks to us like you've forgotten which side you're on." "There are no sides. Just people trying to live their lives," Chuck spat in the dirt. "There's always sides, Sam. And when things get ugly, and they will, you better hope you pick the right one." They left, but the threat hung in the air like smoke. Sam found Nalin later, told her what happened. She looked more worried than he'd ever seen her. "This is bad timing," she said. "The elders are meeting tonight about the cattle accusations. Everyone's angry. If your old friends come back, if there's any kind of confrontation—" "I'll stay out of sight," Sam promised. But staying out of sight didn't help. That night, during the elders' meeting, someone brought up Sam. Nalin told him about it later, her voice tight with stress. "They said you're a risk. That having a white man here, especially now, puts everyone in danger. They said maybe the settlers are watching you, using you to spy on us." "That's crazy," Sam said. "I would never—" "I know that. But fear makes people think crazy things." Nalin sat down heavily. She looked exhausted. "My uncle defended you, said you've proven yourself. But others disagreed. They want you gone, Sam. They want me to choose between you and the community." Sam's heart sank. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Nalin admitted. "I'm so tired of being pulled in different directions. I love you, but I love my people too. How do I choose?" "Maybe you shouldn't have to," Sam said, though he didn't know what alternative existed. The next few days were tense. Sam stayed close to the horse corrals, working extra hard trying to be invisible, but he could feel eyes on him constantly. People whispering. The atmosphere had shifted from cautious acceptance back to suspicion. Then came the worst blow. Nalin's uncle called them both to speak with him privately. His face was grave. "The council has made a decision," he said in English so Sam would understand. "The tensions with settlers are too high right now. Having Sam here puts everyone at risk. He needs to leave." "Uncle, please," Nalin started. He held up a hand. "I argued for him." "You know I did. But I'm not the only voice that matters. The community has spoken." "I'm sorry. For how long?" Sam asked. "Until things calm down?" The uncle shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe permanently. It depends on many things." Sam felt like he'd been punched. After all the work, all the effort to fit in, it was ending anyway. He looked at Nalin, saw tears in her eyes. "This isn't fair," she said. "Sam has done nothing wrong." "Fair doesn't matter when people are scared," her uncle said gently. "You know this, Nalin. You've always known the cost of this relationship." That night, Sam packed his few belongings. He didn't have much, hadn't accumulated anything. Still poor, still nobody, still with nowhere to go. Nalin found him as he was finishing. "Don't," she said. "Don't what?" "Don't leave. Not like this. Your community wants me gone. I can't stay where I'm not wanted. It'll only make things worse for you. So you're just giving up?" There was anger in her voice now. "After everything we've been through?" "I'm not giving up," Sam said. "I'm being realistic. Your people need you. They don't need me. Hell, they don't even want me." "I want you," Nalin said fiercely. "Doesn't that count for something?" "It counts for everything." "But Nalin, look around. The world is telling us this won't work. Maybe we should listen." She grabbed his arm, stopping him from packing. "The world has been telling my people we don't matter for decades. That we should give up, move on, disappear. Should we listen to that too?" Sam met her eyes. "That's different." "How?" "How is it different?" "Both are about refusing to let others decide your worth. Both are about fighting for what matters even when it's hard." "This is about more than us," Sam said. "It's about your community's safety. If me being here puts people at risk, you're not the risk. The settlers making false accusations are the risk. The people who want to start fights are the risk. You're just a man who works hard and cares about me. Why should you be punished for their hate?" Sam wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to. But the fear was stronger. What if something happens to you because of me? What if your community gets targeted because they sheltered a white man? I couldn't live with that, Nalin. They stood there in the cold night, steam rising from their breath, the stars bright overhead. Everything Sam had built here was crumbling, and he didn't know how to stop it. "Come with me," he said suddenly. "What?" "Come with me. We'll leave together. Find somewhere new, somewhere people don't know us or care about where we come from." Nalin stared at him. You want me to leave my people? My home. Everything I've known? I'm not saying it would be easy. But Nalin, we can't build a life here. Maybe we never could. But somewhere else maybe we could. She pulled away from him. I can't believe you'd ask that. After everything I've taught you about community, about belonging, about how my people need each other to survive. You want me to just walk away? I'm asking you to choose us, Sam said. To choose the life we could have. By giving up everything else? That's not a choice, Sam. That's an ultimatum. They were fighting now, really fighting. Voices raised, emotions raw. All the stress of the past months boiling over into anger and hurt. I gave up everything for you, Sam said. My job, my friends, my whole life. I'm not asking for anything I haven't already done. You didn't have a community, Nalin shot back. You told me yourself you never had a real home. But I do. These people raised me. They're my family. How can you ask me to abandon them? I'm not asking you to abandon them. Just to put us first for once. Us? Or you? Nalin's voice was cold now. Because this sounds like you running away. Again. Like you've always run when things get hard. That hit Sam hard. That's not fair, isn't it? You ran from Boston. You ran from your ranch. And now you want to run from here too, and you want me to run with you. I didn't run. I survived. There's a difference. Is there? Nalin turned away. Maybe my community is right. Maybe this was doomed from the start. We're too different, Sam. From different worlds, and maybe those worlds can't mix. The words hung between them like a wall. Sam felt something breaking inside him, something that wouldn't easily heal. So that's it? He said quietly. You're choosing them over me? I'm choosing myself, Nalin said. My identity, my people. The things that make me who I am. If you loved me, you'd understand that. I do love you. That's why this hurts so much. They stood in silence for a long moment. The cold bit deeper. In the distance, a coyote howled. Finally, Sam picked up his bag. I'll go. But Nalin, I want you to know something. This isn't over for me. I'm not giving up on us. I'm just giving you space to figure out what you really want. Maybe I already know, Nalin said. But her voice cracked, betraying the certainty of her words. Sam walked away into the night, not looking back. Each step felt impossible, but he kept taking them. By morning he was gone, headed toward the nearest town with no plan and no hope. Just a broken heart and the memory of a smile that had once said everything. Behind him, Nalin stood in the cold, watching the space where he'd been, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Sam spent 2 weeks in town finding odd jobs. He fixed fences, mucked stables, did whatever work people would pay him for. It wasn't much. He slept in a boarding house that charged by the night, eating cheap bread and thinking about Nalin constantly. He'd been wrong to ask her to leave her people. He saw that now in the lonely clarity of distance. But he'd been right about one thing. They couldn't build a life where neither of them belonged. So where did that leave them? Nowhere good, it seemed. Meanwhile, Nalin was struggling too. She'd thrown herself into work, translating more than ever, helping her community navigate the tensions with settlers. The cattle situation had resolved itself, the accusations proven false like she'd predicted. But the damage lingered. Trust, once broken, didn't heal quickly. Her uncle found her one evening, staring at nothing. You're miserable, he observed. I'm fine. Nalin, you're a terrible liar, remember? She smiled sadly. He wanted me to leave with him. Can you imagine? Just walk away from everything. And you said no. Of course I said no. How could I leave? Her uncle sat beside her. The same way I left my first home when the government forced us to move. The same way your mother left her family to marry your father. Sometimes leaving isn't abandonment. Sometimes it's survival. That's different. Those were necessary, was it? Or did we just tell ourselves that to make it easier? He looked at her carefully. You can love your people and still build your own life, Nalin. These things aren't opposites. But everyone needs me here. Do they? Or is that what you tell yourself because it's easier than admitting you're scared? Nalin didn't answer. Because he was right and they both knew it. 3 days later, she went to find Sam. She rode into town, asking around until someone pointed her to the boarding house. She found him outside, repairing a broken wagon wheel for pennies. He looked up and froze. Nalin, we need to talk. They walked to the edge of town where they could speak privately. Nalin had rehearsed what she wanted to say, but seeing him made all the words disappear. I was wrong, she started. About what I said. You're not running away. You're trying to build something. I see that now. I was wrong too, Sam said. Asking you to leave was selfish. Your community is part of who you are. But so are you, Nalin said. And I've been thinking. Maybe there's a third option. Not your world, not mine. Somewhere in between. Sam looked confused. What do you mean? My uncle's cousin owns land. It's remote, on the boundary between territories. Neither fully Apache land nor fully settler land. It's empty now, but it's good earth. Water nearby. He says if we wanted, we could use it. Nalin, are you saying... I'm saying maybe we don't have to choose between your world and mine. Maybe we can make our own. Together. Hope bloomed in Sam's chest, but he tried to be practical. Would your community accept that? Some will. Some won't, but my uncle says the elders have been talking. They realized they were too harsh, too quick to judge. You weren't the problem, Sam. Fear was. And they're trying to do better. What about the settlers? What about people in town? Those same people, probably. Some will hate it. Some won't care. But Sam, we can't live our lives waiting for everyone to approve. We'll be waiting forever. Sam stepped closer to her. Are you sure? Really sure? Because if we do this, there's no going back. We'll be on our own mostly. Building from nothing. I've never been more sure of anything, Nalin said. I spent 2 weeks without you, and I was more alone than I've ever been. Being with my community, but without you, that's not home. Home is where you are. Sam's eyes got wet. He didn't try to hide it. I love you. I love you so much. I love you too. So let's stop fighting the world and start building our own piece of it. They started planning immediately. The land was about 30 miles from Nalin's uncle's place, 15 miles from the nearest town. Remote enough for privacy, close enough for supplies and help if needed. Nalin's uncle agreed to help them build. He brought some men from the community, not everyone, but enough. They showed Sam how to build in the Apache style, working with the land instead of against it. Sam contributed what he knew about ranching and construction from his cowboy days. Slowly, a small house took shape. One room to start, with plans to add more. A corral for horses. A well for water. Simple but solid. Some settlers heard about what was happening and came to watch, suspicious. But Sam talked to them, explained he was just trying to build a life with his wife. Wife. The word was new, though they'd made their commitment to each other official in a quiet ceremony with Nalin's uncle presiding. You really married an Apache woman? One settler asked. I married Nalin, Sam corrected. Who happens to be Apache? Same as I'm a man who happens to be Irish. It wasn't much of an answer, but it was honest. Some people nodded and left them alone. Others grumbled but didn't cause trouble. A few surprisingly offered help. Materials, advice, small kindnesses that added up. The house was finished by late spring. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was theirs. Sam and Nalin stood in the doorway looking at what they'd built together and felt something like peace. What do we do now? Sam asked. We live, Nalin said simply. We work. We make this place ours. They did exactly that. Sam started training horses using the methods Nalin's uncle had taught him. Gentle methods, patient methods. Word spread that he was good at it, and people started bringing horses to him. Apache people and settlers both. Nalin continued her translation work, but she also started something new. She began teaching. Apache children learning English, settler children learning Apache. Not everyone liked it, but enough did. Enough to make a difference. Their little homestead became a strange kind of neutral ground. A place where people from different worlds could meet without the weight of history crushing them. It didn't solve everything. Tension still existed. Prejudice didn't disappear. But it was something. A small crack in the wall between communities. Sam and Nalin worked hard. They built a smokehouse, expanded the corral, planted a small garden. Every nail, every seed, every stone placed was part of their shared dream. The life they were creating together, one day at a time. Some days were harder than others. There were times when people said cruel things. Times when old hurts surfaced. Times when Sam and Nalin argued about how to handle situations, coming from their different perspectives. But they learned to talk through it, to listen to each other, to remember that they were on the same team, building the same dream. Nalin's community slowly came around. Not everyone, but enough. They saw how hard Sam worked. How he respected their ways. How he made Nalin happy. Her uncle visited often, helping with projects, teaching Sam more about Apache traditions. "You've done well," the uncle said one day, watching Sam work with a difficult horse. "Better than I expected, honestly." "Thanks, I think," Sam said, grinning. "I'm serious. You've earned respect, Sam. Not from everyone, but from the people who matter. That's more than most outsiders ever get." It meant something hearing that. Sam had never felt like he belonged anywhere before. Not in Boston, not at the ranches, not fully in Nolan's community. But here, in this in-between place they'd built, he was starting to feel like maybe he'd found home. One evening, sitting outside as the sun set, Nalan leaned against Sam's shoulder. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Giving up the easier path? You could have found another ranch job, married a settler woman, lived a normal life." "Normal is overrated," Sam said. "And this? This is worth every hard moment, every judging look, every obstacle. Because I'm with you. We built something good here, didn't we? We really did." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn colors. In the corral, horses grazed peacefully. Somewhere in the house behind them, dinner was cooking. Simple things. Normal things. But for Sam and Nalan, these simple, normal things were revolutionary. They were proof that two people from different worlds could create something new together. Not his world, not hers, but theirs. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. The world outside their small homestead still had all its problems, all its divisions, all its hate. But here, in this place they'd built with their own hands, love was enough. Sometimes late at night, Sam would think back to that moment under the cottonwood trees. "What if I touch you?" he'd whispered, terrified and hopeful. And Nalan had smiled, had taken his hand, had said, "Then you touch me." Such a simple answer. But it had led to all of this. To home, to belonging, to a life worth living. They'd touched each other, and in doing so, they'd touched something bigger. The possibility of change. The hope that walls could come down. The dream that love, real love, could bridge any distance. 5 years passed like water flowing downriver. Sometimes smooth, sometimes rough, but always moving forward. Sam was 28 now. No longer the uncertain young cowboy who'd first walked into that trading post. Lines had formed around his eyes from squinting in the sun, and his hands were calloused from years of honest work. Nalan had changed too. Not in appearance, she was still tall and strong, still carried herself with that natural confidence. But something had softened in her. The constant tension she'd carried, the weight of living between two worlds had eased. Here, in the home they'd built, she could just be herself. They had 2 children now, a daughter named Ayanna, 3 years old with her mother's height and her father's curiosity, and a son, Thomas, barely 1, who grabbed at everything and laughed at nothing in particular. The house had grown to accommodate them. New rooms added as needed, still simple but full of life. The homestead had grown too. They had a dozen horses now, some for training, some for breeding. The garden produced more than they could eat, so they traded vegetables for other supplies. Word of Sam's skill with difficult horses had spread far, and people came from towns 2 days away seeking his help. But it wasn't just about success or survival anymore. It was about legacy, about what they were teaching their children, about the small community that had started to form around their little neutral ground. One morning, Sam sat outside watching Ayanna play. She was talking to herself in a mix of English and Apache, switching between languages like it was the most natural thing in the world, because for her it was. She'd never known a world where both weren't normal. Nalan came out and sat beside him. "What are you thinking about?" "How different things could have been," Sam said. "If I'd been too scared to talk to you that first day. If you'd sent me away. If we'd given up during the hard times. But we didn't. No, we didn't." Sam smiled. "Do you remember what you said when I asked if I could touch you?" "Then you touch me," Nalan quoted. "How could I forget? It's the moment everything changed. It seems so small now. One question. One answer. But it led to all of this." He gestured at their home, their children, the life they'd built. Everything started with that moment. "It wasn't small," Nalan said. "Brave things never are, even when they seem simple. You asked a question people told you not to ask. I gave an answer my community said I shouldn't give. That took courage." Ayanna ran over, holding a flower she'd picked. "Mama, look." "Beautiful, little one," Nalan said in Apache. Then in English, "What kind is it?" "I don't know," Ayanna admitted. "But it's yellow." "Let's look it up in the book," Sam suggested. He'd bought a book on local plants, and teaching Ayanna about them had become one of his favorite things. They went inside together, the three of them, leaving Thomas napping under Nalen's uncle's watchful eye. The old man visited often now, having grown fond of his great-niece and great-nephew. He'd been right all those years ago. The world was changing, and holding on to old hatreds helped no one. That afternoon, visitors arrived. A young Apache woman and a settler man, both looking nervous and hopeful. Sam and Nalen had seen that expression before. They got it a lot lately. "We heard about you," the young woman said, "about how you made it work. We were hoping. Could you tell us how?" Sam and Nalen exchanged a look. This happened more often now. Couples from different backgrounds seeking advice, looking for proof that it was possible. "Come sit," Nalen invited. "We'll tell you what we learned." They spent hours talking with the young couple about the challenges they'd faced, about dealing with judgment from both communities, about finding neutral ground, literally and figuratively, about the importance of respecting each other's backgrounds while building something new together. "It's not easy," Sam warned them. "People will try to stop you. Some will say terrible things. You'll question yourselves 1,000 times. But," Nalen added, "if you love each other enough, if you're willing to work for it, it's possible. Look at us. Look at what we built." The young couple left as the sun was setting, looking more hopeful than when they'd arrived. Sam watched them go, feeling something he couldn't quite name. Pride, maybe. Or purpose. "We're becoming a symbol," Nalen observed. "Whether we want to be or not. Is that bad? I don't know. It's just strange. We were just trying to live our lives. Maybe that's all anyone can do," Sam said. "Live their lives as honestly as they can and hope it makes things better for the people who come after." That night, after the children were asleep, Sam and Nalen sat outside under the stars. The same stars that had watched over them that first night when Sam dared to hope. The same stars that had witnessed every struggle, every triumph, every moment of doubt and determination. "Do you think we changed anything?" Sam asked. "Really changed anything? Or are we just a strange exception that people will forget about?" Nalen thought about it. "We change things for us. For our children. For the couples who come asking for advice. Maybe that's not changing the whole world, but it's not nothing either." "It's not nothing," Sam agreed. "And maybe," Nalen continued, "that's how big changes happen. Not all at once, but person by person, family by family. People seeing that walls can come down. That different worlds can touch without destroying each other." Sam reached for her hand, still marveling after all these years at how well they fit together. "I'm glad I asked that question. I'm glad I answered." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that comes from years of knowing someone completely. From sharing struggles and joys, from building a life together one small decision at a time. Inside the house, Thomas started crying. Nalen stood to check on him, but Sam touched her arm gently. "I'll go. You rest." He found his son standing in his crib, tears on his chubby cheeks but already calming down. Sam picked him up and Thomas immediately laid his head on his father's shoulder. "It's okay, little man," Sam whispered. "Just a bad dream. You're safe." He walked around the room, rocking Thomas gently, and his eyes fell on the blue cloth hanging on the wall. The same cloth he'd given Nalen all those years ago. She'd kept it, treasured it. Now it hung in their children's room, a reminder of beginnings. Thomas fell back asleep quickly. Sam laid him down carefully and stood there for a moment, watching both his children sleep. Ayana was sprawled out like she'd fallen from the sky, blanket kicked off. Thomas was curled up tight, thumb in his mouth. These children would grow up differently than Sam had. They wouldn't know poverty the way he did. They wouldn't know homelessness or hunger. But more importantly, they wouldn't know the feeling of not belonging anywhere. They had a home. They had parents who loved each other and loved them. They had two cultures, two languages, two ways of seeing the world. That was the real legacy, Sam realized. Not the house or the horses or even the example they set for other couples. It was these two small people who would grow up believing that love could cross any boundary. That different didn't mean wrong. That courage was sometimes just asking a simple question. He went back outside to Nalen. "They're asleep. Thomas okay?" "Just needed some comfort. He's fine now." Sam sat back down. "I was thinking, maybe we should write it down. Our story. For them, for when they're older. Why? So they know. So they understand that what we have wasn't easy or automatic. That we chose it every day. That it was worth choosing." Nalen considered this. "And what would you write?" "The truth. That I was a poor cowboy with nothing to offer. That you were way out of my league. That I was terrified to even talk to you, let alone ask to touch you. That your smile said yes before your words did. That we fought and struggled and almost gave up. But we didn't, we kept choosing each other. That's a good story, Nalin said softly. A true one. The best kind. Years later, when Ayana was grown with children of her own, she would find that written story in her father's careful handwriting. She would read about a young cowboy who dared to love someone the world said he shouldn't. About an Apache woman who chose her own path despite the cost. About a whisper in the shade of cottonwood trees that changed everything. And she would understand finally why her parents had always insisted that the smallest acts of courage could change the world. Because she'd seen it. She'd lived in the world that courage created. But that was still to come. For now, Sam and Nalin sat under the stars, holding hands, watching the night sky. The same stars that had seen empires rise and fall, that had watched countless love stories begin and end, now witnessed this one. Not the most dramatic, perhaps. Not the easiest. But real and earned in theirs. In the distance, a horse whinnied softly. Closer, an owl called out. Inside, their children slept peacefully. And here, on this small piece of land that belonged to no one world but existed between them all, two people who dared to touch across impossible distances rested in the home they'd made. Sam thought back to that dusty afternoon at the trading post, when he'd first seen Nalin and felt his whole world shift. He'd been so lost then, so uncertain about everything. He'd thought he was looking for land or money or success, but what he'd really been looking for was this. Was home. What are you smiling about? Nalin asked. Just thinking about that cowboy with holes in his boots, the one who thought he'd never have anything. He was wrong, Nalin said. He had courage. That's worth more than all the land in Arizona.